All right, we are now back for episode number 9 of Eat, Drink, and Be Scary. I am one of your hosts, Bill, and with us is...
Tanya.
And...
Tom.
Ryan.
And we have a guest today, and who's our guest?
Hi, I'm Mike.
Hey, Mike, you don't have to talk to the mic. You don't have to get that close to it. No, it's really good. No, that's good. No, that's a good distance. Listen, you're projecting, and it sounds great. And this is a show that we talk about paranormal stuff, but we kind of talk about the real stuff about it. We get into some in-depth conversation, some real thought, some fact, and some neat things like that. And if you're listening to this now, you have either watched the last episode of Game of Thrones, or you don't care about it, or you haven't watched it yet and you're trying to avoid spoilers, and keep in mind there's no spoilers on this one because we haven't seen it yet because it's not on for 30 minutes. So with that, today, the reason we're talking about that is we're going to talk about dragons. And
that was a very scary dragon.
Fire.
That was really good. I like that.
I'm freaking out.
And a lot of it is we're going to talk about the history of and how they came to be, and did they ever exist? Do they still exist? And if so, what happened to them? Or why do people think they exist? So, who's got a little history on dragons?
Well, the word dragon comes from the ancient Greek word drakonta, meaning to watch, which is where they got the idea that they guard treasure or gold or coins or gems. But I don't understand why they'd want to do that in the first place. Like, why would the dragon want the gold or the coins or the gems? I mean,
they like shiny things. Maybe like cats.
they're like big cats.
You would have to think that maybe something had to do with the fact that they were using dragons to keep people away from their treasure.
So somebody owns that dragon? Or is it like a dragon to rent?
Yeah. Is it like a bouncer?
Yeah.
Maybe it's a cautionary tale like a boogeyman, like, oh, you better stay away from that treasure or the dragon's going to be mad.
There's a Pecos Bill who threw his rope around that dragon and now has that dragon guarding his gold.
Interesting. That's really... I just never really understood that. And, like, I know they may be sentient, but what... If a dragon comes up to me and says, I really want that, I'm probably going to give it to him. I'm not going to be like, well, that's going to be 4 rubies.
Here's the thing is, dragons can talk.
I know, I'd faint if a dragon said anything to me.
I'd probably faint if I saw a dragon. It doesn't have to say anything.
I mean, if you just straight off anatomically, the way that their faces are usually depicted, they don't have lips, so they can't really form certain words. So how are they talking? Do they telepathically communicate?
The most knowledge I have about dragons is Dragonheart with Sean Connery. So, I mean, he talked just fine.
Well, I mean, obviously, it was
with an accent.
magic.
So, wait, so you're saying that lips are the most important thing for talking?
Well, if they're creating sounds, if you try to talk without lips, you can kind of still do it, and it's really hard.
That's a good look for you.
Thank you.
So just because they don't have lips, I mean, I guess I could talk with a lisp?
I mean, sort of. But it's also, I mean, technically chimpanzees and apes and things could communicate because they have a lot of
parrots, they don't have lips.
It's a tongue.
But if you're, and first off,
tongue, if
a dragon is asking you a question and it obviously speaks your language, do they speak all languages, or they just how does it know how to communicate with you?
Well, since they're inherent to like everywhere on the globe, they probably speak any language you're in wherever you're at. Dragons cater to us. I mean, it's just nice that they've been around that long.
Well, if they've been around that long, maybe they do speak all languages.
It's true.
Right?
Well, there's theory that man learned to speak from dragon. That is an actual theory.
So who taught the rednecks how to speak?
The possum.
No offense, I'm from the Midwest, so... The possum, that's great. So, are we just going to cover all types of dragons then? Chinese, British?
We can cover whatever you want. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on this, because people claim... There are people that clearly they'll say, well, the dinosaur was a dragon. They will say
The dragon was a
the
dinosaur.
dragon was a dragosaur. Yeah, or dragosaur. Dragosaur?
Dragosaurs? Well, here's the thing.
Mystery solved.
Yeah, good night. So, the idea to me is it could be a misinterpreted dinosaur, or there could just be another form of dinosaur that we're calling a dragon, just like there are crows to birds.
Well, and then you're talking about an etymology problem. I mean, like, what are you defining as dragon? And have we... So we have dragons all across the world for all of time, but are we all describing the same kind of thing? And that's obviously been proven as no, because every description is completely different. So,
Yeah,
what's a dragon?
Yeah, I was going to say, what classifies it as
A dragon, because some breathe fire, some breathe ice,
Some are in the water.
some have legs.
Just dictionary. If you type in what is a dragon, it's a mythical monster like a giant reptile, and in European tradition, the dragon is typically fire-breathing and tends to symbolize chaos or evil, whereas in East Asia, it's usually a symbol of fertility associated with water in the heavens. And it's also a fierce and intimidating person, especially a woman. But it says that they're, depending on the culture, some are winged, some are horned, four-legged, capable of breathing fire.
Don't some of them have feathers too, though?
Oh, I've never heard of one having feathers.
Some have feathers?
Not dragons,
thinking-
dinosaurs, but I believe some, yeah.
Oh, see, I just made them. I think
I think dragons don't always have to be the same look. Some of them are kind of amorphous animals. I think some of them in history have been like lion's head or have feline-type legs and serpentine bodies.
Like a chimera, then?
Yeah, somewhat.
Absolutely, and then some dragons, as we talked about before with speech, some were supposedly capable of speech. Other ones were basically no more than feral animals. Very, very minor spoiler for Game of Thrones, but the dragons there mimic that. They're basically just feral animals. They don't really reason. They don't hold conversations. So there's a lot of interpretations.
They're not your Skyrim dragons.
Exactly.
They just like whoever feeds them.
That's not really true, because sometimes they're just the food. They only like if you're Targaryen, or... No, I think that's it. I think it's just... If you feed a dragon, you're basically feeding yourself. Right? Come on, that's not a spoiler alert.
I don't know. Last time I stopped at season 4, so I have a few to watch.
Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen tonight. It's going to be pretty interesting. So the whole concept, basically, dinosaurs have been around since like 4000 BC. Long before... well, the concept of. I mean that by the concept of. And this is long before the discovery of the dinosaur. And they were believed at the time, originally they were like dragon bodies with weird giraffe heads. They could fly. But there's been artwork to show the existence of. It's not like they said, hey, listen, we painted a picture of an elephant and that's real, and this picture we painted here of a dragon was not real. Like, they are just combined. Everything is just...
Well, do you think that they were misidentifying what they were looking at? I mean, or...
Well, that's a good question. That's what I want to talk about. Do you think they did?
Well, here's something that's interesting, too. I mean, the Christian church was talking about certain saints battling and vanquishing, and they actually called them dragons. They had pictures of saints battling dragons, and they associated the dragon with Satan. So, like St. George he was known as the Dragon Slayer, and what he was doing is he was going basically from place to place, eliminating these dragons in the name of God because he was associating them with Satan.
Well, to the point of that, where it is kind of written in biblical terms, and it could just be through translation, through Middle English, Old French, Latin, Greek, a lot of times dragon meant serpent, which did exist. So it could have been just one of those things that kind of got skewed in translation.
Okay, but they did exist, but to the extent that, like, Egyptians showed them as these giant, essentially monsters. A serpent back then was a huge snake-like monster that lived in the water. Did those really exist, or they were exaggerating?
Like,
hey, I caught a fish this big. That's 17 feet. I know.
Well, the interesting part
It could
about
have
that
been
is
like alligators.
a lot of the.
Did you just burp
Oh, I burped, but I wasn't.
on
I
you?
tried to take the
You
bite
in the
out.
middle of a story.
I took some
Thomas,
Sam Adams
Thomas.
Summer Ale. This is eat, drink, and be scary. I eat, drink, burp, and sometimes that's scary. Apparently. Anyway, so a lot of the accounts of dragons are from the water or water-based. I mean, almost all Eastern Asian dragons are water-based. So, I mean, when I think about dragons, the first thing that comes to my American mind are European dragons, which is kind of funny because I'm half Asian. But I mean, they're all fire breathing in the sky. Watch out for what you're doing, kind of thing, because they're all malevolent. But in the Eastern culture, they're all water based, pretty much. You find them guarding water treasures or history and wisdom in water, and then they're benevolent usually.
And this actually poses an interesting question, too, with these water serpents. Could it just be some sort of a fishtail? Maybe they saw something weird at some point and just kept getting exaggerated into what we see nowadays? Or could it actually be maybe there's something more to it? People thought that giant squids were just a tall tale until about 100 years ago or so when people legitimately saw them washing ashore. The oceans are so unexplored, who knows? It's an interesting question to ponder.
So have you ever seen those pictures that they post of a whale penis sticking straight out of the water? And they go, oh crap, that's what they thought was a serpent.
No.
Google whale penis coming out
How
of the
often
water.
do you Google whale penis?
Sounds like a wonderful search
So
at
make
work,
sure
yes.
to delete your search history.
My
afterwards.
point is this was just an article like the BBC just did. They said, hey, listen, remember all those times that they thought we saw serpents?
they were.
They might have been whale penises. But the other aspect of that is talk about at the time that people were sailing the seas and they would draw maps. They notoriously wrote on the edge of maps, "Here there be dragons," meaning if you go further than this, you're going to get dragons.
Well, do you think they did that to like hide certain things, like we talked about treasure, or like if say Jack Sparrow buried some stuff over on this island, and then on the map he put there are dragons here to try to keep people away? Do you think that's where the idea of the?
I'm sorry. I just googled whale penis coming out of the water, and I just saw the image.
And what do you think?
Does it look like Nessie?
Oh my!
Ooh la la!
I want to know what you think.
It looks like a tentacle without the.
Yeah, it is. So when they see that's just it. So they're like, release the Kraken. Oh no, that Will's watching porn. That's okay. Don't worry about
Free
it.
Willy. That was classic.
Here comes the lipstick. So no, that's kind of what it probably turned out to be was that. But at the same time, it was like, so when people talk about the serpents, and of course serpents very often had several heads, and they'd say, well, you cut the one head off the serpent, and that's one thing they would say, like, that's why serpents had so many heads. You can cut one off and keep living. They were designed to scare people away, and that's the same thing with dragons. And it's just like, Sir George, the whole story about, and if I hope I get the story right, but there was the castle. The daughter lived in it, and they bought like this. They bought. Usually the dragon store. They bought a dragon. They got a dragon, and it was a tiny dragon. They said, "Hey, guard her." And they're like, "Oh, this dragon is too small. It'll never." Oh, look at that! You just looked it up, right? You just looked it up. I saw
It's
it on your
Moby
phone.
Dick.
Yeah, it is.
Moby's dick.
Moby's dick.
So sorry for anybody who Googled that, but the concept being
Oh
is
my god!
It looks like a giant tongue
That
coming
looks
out
like
of the
it's
water.
from space.
right. And they dry those. They air them out sometimes. Sometimes you got to let your junk ride free.
Honestly, if I saw that breaking out of the water, I would think that was nothing I've seen before out of an ocean. That looks really weird.
Yeah, it definitely could be.
I don't know if I think it was a dragon though, because I mean it's still only like
Well, it
6
could
feet
be-
out
Well, a
of water.
serpent.
It
I
could
think
be
it
a
was a
serpent.
serpent, though. It is. Listen, I would name mine Serpent if it looked like that.
I would name it Shamu.
I might call it the Kraken, but I don't know.
Well, here's another thing. We'll get back onto dragons. Tom mentioned.
Mushu, and now we're back on dragons.
Yeah, exactly. Tom mentioned that the dragons at the time were considered, in Asia and China, were considered very benevolent and very healing. Actual Chinese medicine, I was just reading a thing about it, said that if you ground up dragon bones, they can be used for medicinal purposes. And then it turns out that those dragon bones were actually dinosaur bones, but they were still adding these powders of ground bone to all their medicine, which is pretty interesting.
Yeah, but it's probably one big dinosaur placebo, really. I mean, it's just like if
Calcium.
if you brought me some ancient something, you go, hey, listen, this is going to get rid of your eczema. my mind would be like, wait, you went all the way here and you got like rhino testicle? Like, this is going to be great. Rub all over my hands. I go, man, this is great.
Yeah, but if someone walks up to you with their bull dick cane and tries to sell you rhino testicles, don't listen to them.
Well, but they've got a bull dick cane, though, and that's some legitimacy going on right there.
That's
Like, you don't go down to like a CMS and just buy one of those.
True.
That's a lot of work.
That's the difference in medicine, though. I mean, Western medicine was there in the 1850s. There were snake oil salesmen. People buy it just on what they were told.
Okay, so listen, I want to, real quick. One question, if you guys can figure this out. Every time, every country, every civilization, they all have their dragon story. Everybody has a dragon. They all do. The only place that has never said, hey, we saw dragons, Antarctic. Want to know why? Nobody's there. But that's it. Everybody. It doesn't matter. There's like a Japanese dragon. There's a Korean dragon. There's a Greek dragon. There's medieval. They're from everywhere.
Mesopotamian, Sumerian.
Well, do
Yeah.
all those places also correlate with fossils of dinosaurs?
At the time, these weren't related to. There's no record of anybody ever prior in the last 200 years, before the last 200 years, finding a dinosaur bone. And you think if you found a dinosaur bone, you'd keep it, you'd show it. Everybody's going to their phone to check to see if that's the case.
No, I'm actually just pulling something up that we were going to talk about.
You're looking at a whale penis again.
I am. That's going to be.
There it is.
But listen,
I need the brain bleach.
I tell you what.
Give me that serpent.
If the Romans found dinosaur bones, they would have shown them. They would have kept them. They would have done something with them. You wouldn't have just found them and buried them again.
Well, why? Well, of course. But if there's a bunch of... I'm not saying that everyone who's ever found a dinosaur bone has found all of the dinosaur bones. Just because you find one doesn't mean that there's not 10 more near it.
What I'm saying is, but if you find dinosaur bones and you're claiming that that's a dragon... I mean, listen, if you found a bone right now, would you know what it was for? Would you know, like, you dig around, you find a good size, a 12-inch bone. Would you go, this must be a human leg?
Oh, you're saying just because you find a bone doesn't mean you call it a dragon's bone.
Yeah. You would have to find the whole dragon. You would have to find the whole bone. Body, bone. The whole bone. The whole skeleton.
Perhaps a skull would be sufficient, though.
Yeah.
Well, of course, that's how, again, then we're going to go like into centaurs, or not centaurs, cyclops, because they were finding these elephant skulls, and they go, oh, well, look at that, it looks like it's got one eye. They must be around.
Well, there was an archaeologist, and I can't think of his name, so I'm sorry, I'll just tell the story anyway, who found a T-Rex bone in Montana, a head, and it had carbon marks on both sides of the skull in 3 very large claws down the center of its forehead. And he postulated that it was a dragon that killed this T-Rex.
I would put my money on the dragon.
Against a T-Rex? Absolutely.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, it flies and has fire, and that's
T-Rex
just
has
interesting.
tiny arms.
I can't catch it. Yeah. It's an interesting story. I don't know what else could.
Did people back him on that, or did people say, "Oh, you're a loon"?
Well, a lot of people.
He wasn't an archaeologist; he was a rancher.
Oh,
okay. Maybe that's why I couldn't find it. Maybe he went to archaeologists and was talking to them about it. I read the story like once.
Listen, I'm not a dinosaur doctor, but I got to think. Most of the time, they find these dinosaur bones. They're so scattered. They're in awe when they find a complete dinosaur. Like if somebody finds
found a complete one?
Occasionally they do. I think they occasionally do. They do. They find them occasionally, but generally they find like a tooth and a femur, and here's their, I don't know, cockles. I don't know what's going on. Like I said, I'm not a dinosaur doctor, but with it's and over time we've messed up a lot. I say we, I mean man. Like we did personally, but they'll find a bunch of bones, they'll piece a dinosaur together, and they'll go, yeah, this was wrong. Sorry. This didn't really exist.
Well, okay, so the whole concept for the dragon is very fantasy to me, where you've got this hyper-intelligent, almost magical... another thing we haven't talked about yet is they were considered to be immortal, right?
Oh, dragons? Yes.
Yeah. So if they're immortal, then where the hell are they? Antarctica? Is that why we don't know where they're at? Because they all went to Antarctica?
They're in hiding and
Clearly.
they're sleeping.
We need to start an expedition to Antarctica now.
All right, so this is going to be my next question. If it's not my next question, it's Tanya's next question that she brought up earlier before the show. Tanya?
All right, so first question, do dragons have to have wings to be dragons?
No, because several accounts say that dragons are serpentine and live in the water. And like a lot of these things, the Umugi of Korea, they don't have wings.
Okay, so do they typically breathe fire?
Not always either.
Completely depends. The Chinese ones don't. They bring rains. It's kind of the opposite. You've also got water serpents. But the Western European ones typically do breathe fire, yes. And if they don't, then they're considered wyverns.
So if there is a creature that can travel through water, doesn't necessarily live in water, can do land and water, and breathes fire, and is a giant reptile, would you consider that a dragon?
Well,
Yeah, I guess by all standards.
So would Godzilla be considered a dragon?
Yeah.
He elicits the same fear in most Asian people.
I mean, I looked up, is Godzilla considered a dragon? And it says no, it's not a dragon. He's a kaiju, which kaiju means strange beast, and they come in all different shapes and sizes. But
Dolores Godzilla is different, though, because we know Godzilla's origin. Godzilla is a nuclear fallout creation.
So that just means mythical creatures like Mothra
Well,
would be
just
the same thing.
Well, Mothra is a kaiju.
Oh, so Kaiju.
So kaiju is just like
Mothra's from a different planet.
Yeah.
yeah, but
Mothra is?
Well, Mothra is also the god of peace.
So why is he fighting Godzilla?
Because Godzilla was just being kind of destructive.
Yeah, he brings chaos.
Well, I thought Godzilla was
Like,
the
I grew
good
up
guy.
I thought Godzilla was a good guy,
I think Godzilla was defending Earth from Mothra.
the bringer of peace.
I think it depends on the movie.
It really kind of depends. I'm just kind of scrolling through all the pictures.
So
of
like
which one I grew
dragons,
up on.
it's all really convoluted.
Well, they're saying kaija is like it's like a blanket term for anything that they don't understand right away, right?
Yeah, it just means strange
so it's
beast that comes
paranormal.
in. It's a giant monster,
Yeah.
but it can come in any shape or size. So there's like Rodan, the atomic monster bird, Mothra, the god of peace.
The Kardashians.
Yes. I forgot about this
But
one.
that does raise a more interesting sociological question to me. Are those movies the just natural progression from dragons? Are today's dragons?
Yeah.
Because I think to me, dragons, they always seem to be wise. They always seem to be guarding something. And if it's not some treasure, it's some kind of ancient wisdom. Okay, and a lot of the etymology I was looking up said that they do seem to, like, a lot of the words say serpent, but a lot of the other words say, like, to see or to see clearly. And to me, that seems like they had some kind of ancient vision. If they were supposed to have been living forever, I think it's kind of weird that we all attribute it to the same kind of mythical beast. But it doesn't seem so weird that as a species we would make up something like that we would think would hold all the answers that we can't get through, that once we get to the other side of it would be better. And on the outside of the maps, they're going to know it when we don't.
Well, I also think that the end of the map, a lot of people didn't realize that there wasn't an end of the world. Like, that people probably just thought you go so far, you fall off, you just never come back, right? So
It belongs to the mortal dragons.
right, exactly. So maybe that's where the idea came from, where it was a way to keep people from exploring too far, if you will.
And really, if dragons kind of represent an unknown or kind of savage wilderness, you talked before about the St. George story. Perhaps the dragons in that could represent kind of pre-Christianity, pagan cults, that sort of thing. Again, just something to be feared, something not to be trusted, something unknown. And here comes Christianity bringing civilization into it. So conquering the dragons very much just a metaphor for that.
So is a dragon a boogeyman for like the last 4,000 years?
Or just, like maybe we talked about with Godzilla, it's just the creation, the personification of the unknown. And, depending on which culture you believe, whether it's Asian, whether it's British, whether it's Germanic, it's going to be one of those belief structures that it's how you perceive the unknown, in immortality. Like the Chinese revere it. They think it's great. They think it's positive. While you've got others who think that it's detrimental or evil or dark. So it's really interesting to see that the dragon itself has become a personification for all things that we don't understand, I think.
Well, at the same time, though, you talk about Egyptian. A lot of times when they refer to their version of a dragon, which would be a serpent, they were always guarding something. whether they were helpful in guarding, they were personally being protected by dragons, or very times that they had to, before they got to another god, they had to get through a serpent or dragon. So everything, a dragon itself, I think you're right when you say that it's designed to scare. Hey, by the way, I got a dragon. Oh shit, I'm not going to come over to your house. I don't want to mess with your dragon. I think it works. I think so. If you're going to think of the scariest thing ever that's going to guard you, yeah, it's going to be. We're all afraid of snakes. We're all kind of afraid of lizards. Well, what about a giant lizard?
Well, does that stem back to Adam and Eve then? You know, the idea of...
Well, the Egyptians is pre.
Well, right,
fake.
but I mean the serpent itself and the fear of with Christianity, right?
Well, did that stem from then, or did we just go back and define it that way afterwards? I mean,
Well, that's
how
what I'm saying.
adulterated is
That's
that
what I'm
story?
saying. The serpent becoming the dragon for Christianity as it progressed, and relating to Adam and Eve, and the serpent having wisdom and giving it to Eve, which in turn caused all the issues. Right? Is that where the church is trying to go and say this is why we have certain saints who were fighting against these dragons?
The metaphorical serpents.
Right. Exactly.
That makes sense.
So, and then what's funny, and if you talk about Hollywood, you've got Smaug, right, who is the dragon who, I'm going to collect all this gold, and then when you try to steal my mountain rock, I'm going to breathe fire on your country or whatever. And then you've got Dragonheart, who befriended somebody and worked with them, acting scary, and then he was just getting paid in the process. So to me, it's like each dragon or each personification.
Yeah, but
of
hold
dragon.
on. Let's talk about Dragonheart for a second. They killed all the dragons because the dragons were kind of bad. Like they were killing things. So all the knights go. Dennis Quaid's like, I'm gonna kill the dragons, and then Sean Connery's like, I'm the last dragon, Miss Moneypenny. And then he's like, yeah, and then he's like, then they become friends because like if you're backed in a corner, you're gonna be like, all right, listen, I'm the last dragon. Although weren't there like 3 more dragon hearts after that with different people? So maybe that he wasn't the last dragon.
I don't know.
They made
Clearly
more.
not canon.
Yeah, exactly.
They made more.
Well, back to the question I was going to ask is, does each dragon have its its own intelligence and own personality, or is that a cultural reference?
I think they're kind of like guard dogs. I think they're like a. It's
Like-
like a.
Every
How
animal
you
has
train
its
it.
own personality.
I think I shouldn't say guard dogs. I think it's like a pet. And
Well-
how you train it and teach it to be. If I could take a Chihuahua and teach it to attack humans, I could teach it.
Well,
I won't be
right,
good at it, but I can teach
but
it.
if these things are hyper intelligent and immortal, I doubt we'd be training them to.
Yeah, I guess
Be
it
a
depends
pet.
on what stage of development in the dragon you got it at.
If I'm going to get a dragon to guard my
Dragon
castle
puppy.
and all my treasure, then it's trainable. It's not instinctively going to wake him and go, I'm a
Well, there's a
dragon.
movie about that. How to Train Your Dragon.
There is. There's a lot.
Well, that was right.
I guess I
on the
need to
nose.
watch it.
Honestly, that's
Today's
probably the
episode is
best dragon
brought to you
Bill,
movie.
you're really on. What treasure do you have that you need guarded? Because this is the second time you're talking about dragons for your treasure.
My only point, I have nothing. I have been divorced twice. I have nothing.
I can
at
have a really
all.
small dragon for right now. We'll train it to be.
We're
going
going to come in here and it's going to be nothing but whale penises.
I have 3 fish, and those will guard. They're great. My beta fish is like, yeah, he's awesome. He's a really good fish, sterling.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? Honestly, though, How to Train Your Dragon is probably the best dragon movie of the last 15 years.
Oh, ow, really?
Oh, easy.
15 years.
Oh, easy.
Oh, well, okay, so Dragonheart, though, is older than that. Dragonheart's
Yeah.
got to be like 20-something.
It was Dragonheart and then How to Train Your Dragon. All the other ones kind of sucked.
What about Falcor, man? Falcor's a cool dragon.
Yeah, I like Toothless.
Is Falcor from Neverending Story a dragon? He's a dog.
That's what he describes himself as a dragon, isn't he?
He's a flying dog.
We cannot assign a title on him. It's up to him to do that for himself.
All right.
Oh,
We're looking it up.
it's
Is Falcor a dog
2019.
or a
You
dragon?
can't label other things, Bill.
Come on, How to Train Your Dragon was brilliant.
Well, I've only seen the first one. But there's a new one coming out.
I think there's a third one coming out.
Is it?
The
No,
third one's already out.
I think it's... Hold on, I'm looking this up. I'm going to beat Tanya to it because she always beats this up. How to
Good job.
train your dragon through... Okay, I'm going to just say how to train your dragon. And then... so it's out now.
Yeah.
So 3 is out. Okay.
Yeah.
But isn't that like... Like, if you can't figure out the first time, you're not going to get it. It's like taking your dog back. I got to take my dog back to obedience school for a third time. No, put your dog down, okay? Your dog's not going to learn. It's going to just keep chewing the couch and peeing on everything.
Well, these dogs are immortal.
Yeah. Damn dragon, off my couch.
A little bit harder to put down, too.
Falcor was a luck dragon.
See? Dragon.
Mostly,
And he had fur.
He appeared like an oriental dragon, but had the appearance of a Great Pyrenees.
He did.
But I think the canine features were kind of used to create kind of a softer, more affectionate kind of look. So
I thought
it
he
just
was
seemed more
terrifying.
gentle.
It did look like they took one of those Chinese street paper dragons and then draped it in fur.
Basically.
Yeah, it looked like a cross
he
between.
was a luck dragon.
It looked like a cross between those paper dragons and the car from Dumb and
The
Dumber.
van from Dumb and Dumber. That's exactly what I was just thinking.
Yeah.
So if you're going to talk about dragon movies, can we talk about Dungeons and Dragons, the movie?
I haven't seen the movie.
That's because it's really, really bad. But really the best dragon movie ever, Pete's Dragon, right?
Oh, right.
No.
Puff?
Why not? No, the original one. The
Puff.
original one, not the
Puff
real.
has got to be the best dragon.
I don't
of
think
all
they
time.
made one.
Yeah,
Puff
that
the
was a
Magic
great
Yeah,
song.
Yeah.
right. String and sealing wax, and that guy is fine.
He was
Yeah,
such
that was a
good
great song.
dragon. He just
Yeah.
wanted to be loved.
And how do we feel about the Hobbit in there?
Yeah.
That's what you're saying about.
It's not
small.
really a dragon movie though. It's just got a dragon in it.
Well, that's the thing. Is there really a dragon? Again, I guess there are some dragon movies, but most of them just have a dragon.
Okay, so I noticed you said
Cameo.
Here's one though that I love dearly. I think it's a really good movie, Reign of Fire.
I haven't seen it.
Oh my god, it's so good. Matthew McConaughey and Christian Bale and other people and
I have seen
dragons.
that. I have seen that. That was a pretty decent.
It's good. Basically, here's the story: is
Spoiler
dragons were. I'm not gonna. I'll just give you the story.
Yeah.
Which
And
goes back.
He's
They
got
were-
like a
they were-
half-shaved head.
Dragons
That's
go
cool.
out. They go out. They cause havoc for a long time, and then they go into hiding for centuries. And then they come back out, and this is supposed to be where they found a dragon, and the dragons came back out, and they started killing everybody. And now this is post-apocalyptic world with dragons, and everybody's trying to survive. And oddly, these people try and survive in a castle in England, and then they're fighting dragons.
So like,
And
is
Matthew
this,
McConaughey's in it.
is this like modern? Like it's supposed to be modern
I
times?
think it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
feudal England, isn't it?
Well, no, it's present day.
Is it
It's
present day?
Yeah, it's present day. It's saying, what if? By the way, they did make a Dragonheart 3. Here's the Dragonheart 3, and it says the Sorcerer's Curse. A young knight and a dragon named Drago. Wasn't Drago the?
Yeah, dragon.
That was
Not-
Drago.
This is Draco.
Draco with a C.
Oh, this is Drago. A young
This is
knight
Draco's nephew.
and a dragon named Drago, whose lives are now shared with one heart. Join forces to protect the nest filled with dragon eggs. Wait a minute. I think this is Game of Thrones. From an evil sorcerer and undo a curse placed on Drago as well. Drago had a curse on him?
From the same sorcerer? Who's trying to get the eggs?
I don't know.
There's too many holes in that story.
Wasn't there dragons in like the Chronicles of Narnia?
Yeah, there was a dragon in the Chronicles of Narnia, but I don't think it was anything. It was a boy got changed into a dragon because of his greed over magic.
That's kind of cool. Can I get like an upgrade?
And wasn't there a kids movie about? And that's the other thing was Loch Ness Monster. Where does he fit in this? Because I think there was a movie about a kid that found Loch Ness Monster. There was like a kids movie. He came out.
Well, are you saying that he's a dragon?
Well, that's the thing.
That's the other thing. Is he? If we're saying serpents,
If he's a serpent, right? Would they have classified him as a dragon? I mean, all the crap they were seeing in the water is a dragon. The stuff they were claiming that were serpents in the 1700s when they were all sailing around were those dragons?
although Loch Ness Monster would be like a shitty dragon. Like I can't spit fire. I don't got wings.
Nah, did you see me? Maybe.
Yeah, but
I pop my head out every 30 years and go, and then I go back down.
That Loch Ness treasure, though, seriously.
Yeah.
Retarding.
that's really funny to me. I mean, I don't know. That's the thing. Now we're stuck in this vernacular of what is classifies as a dragon. You know, because some are like, oh, they have wings, some they have fire. Now we're saying, no, they don't. They don't have to have legs. They don't have to have wings. They don't have to spit fire.
Okay, in the last 4,000 years, do you think there's anything that existed that somebody would say, oh, that might be a dragon?
The Komodo dragon.
But that's just
Which
a giant lizard.
It is.
But they
It's
call it a
giant
dragon,
lizard.
right?
And it is a dragon. It's technically like a monitor lizard, but I mean they're huge. They're
Well, while you're
there's several. They can be up to 154 pounds. They can be like 10 feet long. Their bites are deadly, extremely deadly.
There have been 20-foot crocodiles.
well, okay. So
Nile
one theory
area.
was the reason why reptiles and things were so much larger prehistorically was because there was more oxygen around, and the oxygen and the vast amount of food that was readily available for them, they grew to a size unbeknownst to what we know today. So maybe these dragons that we're seeing were just really big lizards, right? Or really big snakes that we have currently, but because the conditions of the earth were different, they were much larger. But I still have the same question, like what constitutes the physiology of a dragon? Because it's so different. We have no legs, we have arms, we have... Wait, do they have arms?
Yeah, some of them.
Some do. Like I said, some of them.
Feline arms.
Some of them had
Cat arms?
Some claim that they had the body of a lion with wings and like a head of a
The easy and unsatisfying answer depends on the culture.
And the
head of a snake.
The Chinese ones have 4 toes, and the Japanese ones only have 3 toes, and they have all sorts of crazy differences.
Well, that's another thing too. Like, isn't it the triads that believe that if you have a dragon tattoo and it has 4 toes, that's okay for them to kill you? Because the 3-toed dragon was considered to be more powerful.
I'll ask my local triads.
No, I mean, I remember watching something on that on like the Discovery Channel. Like they really take that stuff into account because they see it as a form of power.
I don't know, but I for years I always thought that if you had a teardrop tattoo, that meant that you killed somebody. And later on, I found out that basically it just if you went to prison, you were someone's bitch. They give you a teardrop tattoo, which
Well,
I would come out too. And I go, hey, where'd you get that teardrop tattoo? Yeah, I killed someone. That's what I would say.
But I haven't stopped crying since.
Well, if we're going to talk about prison, that's where the whole idea of the sagging pants came into play, right? If your pants were sagging, it meant that you were totally okay with anal sex. So when you see all these people who are tough with, their skinny jeans around their ankles,
And
it just means
They wanted you to enter the dragon.
Yeah, they're ready for whale penis.
And that's
Oh,
why
exactly.
and that's why I wear mom jeans everywhere I go now.
up around your nipples. No, that's really interesting.
So, what are our kind of final thoughts about dragons?
Well,
I don't think we've come to a final decision. What were you saying?
dinosaur
I'm sorry.
bones? Are they dinosaur bones?
No, I don't think they are. I honestly feel if there was any culture that had discovered any sort of dinosaur bone during their time, they would have prominently shown this thing and said, "Look what we found."
And
A dinosaur bone's big. Anything that if you found a bone big enough to make you think that it was a dinosaur, whether a skull being the best, you would show that to everybody.
and say what? That it was a dragon?
Sure, I don't know. It
Like,
depends what it looked.
you
Yeah,
know-
why not? You would if you found this thing, you would think it was a mythical creature.
You could go down that same line with cryptids, though, because people yell up and down and shout from mountains about cryptids. And so I don't sound crazy. This guy named Francis Schaeffer, who's a philosopher and theologian, said he's not at all convinced that it's been proven that dinosaurs became extinct prior to the advent of man, and that there might be evidence saying that they've been around together.
Jesus rode a dinosaur.
They could have.
And there's also an interesting creation story, and I'll keep it brief, but Cadmus, he was one of the earlier Greek heroes. He was before Heracles and all those guys. Anyway, at one point, he sent a couple of his companions to a spring to draw some water. However, this water serpent killed him. Cadmus came in later, slayed this dragon, and once the dragon was killed, Athena, the goddess of wisdom, said, take this dragon's teeth, put these teeth in the ground, and from them will sprout a race of warriors. And this is basically the origin story for the Spartans. If you've heard of cadmium, by the way, the metal based off of Cadmus, and I would argue that's a very metal story, dragon's teeth becoming warrior people. But who knows, maybe some dinosaur teeth were found, and they thought they were dragon's teeth, and could have been in the area of Sparta, and was just lost to the history of time. Anyway, interesting to think about.
No, it was really good. That's actually a really good point. Like finding teeth. When I was in kindergarten, one of the kids that I went to school in L.A. and this kid brought in a dinosaur tooth because his dad found it, like not that far from his house. He just found a dinosaur tooth and got to keep it, which is really cool, I thought. So it would not be uncommon. If some guy in L.A. walking around found a dinosaur tooth, I don't think it would be uncommon that somebody else would.
Well, you can also buy fossilized dinosaur poop.
Let's not discount how impressionable the general public is too.
Exactly, it's easy to counterfeit.
It's
Is that real poop?
well, you just,
I don't think it's real
You've
poop.
got to taste it to see if it's real.
This is genuine corporalite here, people.
Yeah, but you could buy a ghost in a box. I mean,
Oh, true.
That's
Okay.
genuine too.
So here's what I think. I think that similar to what Bill's thinking, any bone that they found and not knowing about dinosaurs because they hadn't had the ability to research that like we have in modern times, I guess. It was like a misinterpretation.
All I'm saying is I'm getting sick of dinosaur bones being the only reason for everything. Like, they're the reason for the Greek mythologies. They're the reason for dragons now.
Okay, well then it's Godzilla fighting
How many times do you
Mothra.
you trip over? Say there is like a giant 5-foot skull sitting next to the city, and you trip over it every now and then. What, every second generation comes up with a new story about what put it there?
Probably.
I think it's fear mongering. I think that's going back to the whole thing. It's like what would scare people, and you have when somebody sits there and says, "It had the head of a lion, and the body of a bear, and the claws of a wolverine." You know, just people like take all the scary things and they combine it together, and they go, "I saw one of those."
Whale.
So stay in your room!
Oh no! Yeah, I think that there was fear mongering. I think it was that thing. It's the whole time when they would say the same time when you would sit there and come up with a god and say it's the god of there's thunder out there. Well, that's an angry god out there.
And one of the reasons that serpents might have been chosen is there's a very mammalian, warm-blooded fear of cold-blooded reptiles. I mean, one of the common theories as to why monkeys started living in trees was basically to get away from things on the ground. A lot of those were giant snakes, crocodiles, that sort of thing. There's a very mammalian fear of that. So that's pretty easy to transform into dragons.
And why
really.
most of them were so big, too. We fear big things.
I thought they played the floor was lava.
Well, that's another thing. We didn't even talk about the anaconda. That's a big ass snake,
Ain't got
right?
none,
So
unless
what
you got
makes
buns.
what's that make?
Talk about the whale's anaconda.
True, we did. Well, I mean, what makes that not a dragon? We talked about. I mean, seriously, we talked.
I mean,
I love that how serious you were when you asked that. Answer my question.
Well, it's a legitimate question. We said that there are some serpents that were considered dragons, right?
So one of the Greek serpents that was considered a dragon was actually named Python, so there's that too.
Oh, well, there you go. That's the answer.
I think you have to say
Yeah, but
it
did the word
first to
python
find
come
out.
from that? Did somebody goes, oh look, did they name pythons after that?
Probably.
I think
So
wouldn't surprise
if
me.
A equals B, then B equals C. So just about every reptile could be a dragon.
and which came from chickens, or chickens came from them. So really, chickens are probably dragons, and chickens deep down are scary AF.
Ooh,
Because
then-
if there was a 30-foot chicken walking down the street right now, don't go out your door.
Well, that's like the basan in Japanese culture, the fire-breathing chicken.
There is one.
Yeah, check it out. Look it up on Google.
Yeah, I like my chicken. This general's,
What if it accidentally-
General's dragon was great.
What if it
today.
accidentally cooked
Right.
itself? By the way, we didn't talk about the food. We didn't. It was my
General's
fault.
dragon. We had sweet and sour dragon.
Well,
I
know,
like
but-
General Tso's dragon.
But we
Dragon
made,
eggs.
the food that we made specifically for tonight, and I feel bad that we're talking about it towards the end. We made very spicy Scotch eggs, and then we dipped them in dragon sauce.
Yeah, green dragon hot sauce.
It's green dragon hot sauce from Trader Joe's. But the eggs, this is the first time we had ever made them before. It was pretty exciting, which we hard boiled some eggs, wrapped them in some very spicy sausage, and then put breading around them, and then we deep fried them a little bit, and then we cooked them in
This dragon sauce.
an
is
oven.
great.
The dragon sauce was really good.
This bottle has a European dragon on. I think it's got like a fish tail, but it's got a serpent head, and it's shooting fire, and it's got horns. But I think it lives in the water.
Makes sense. You got to cook your fish.
Perfect amalgamation.
All right. Well, I don't know. I don't think we've come to a conclusion. I think
They're
we just talked
ubiquitous
about stuff.
still
We
in
did.
everything.
I think it's going to boil into this. Tom, what's your favorite dragon?
Mushu. No, I don't know. I'm out.
Ryan?
Toothless.
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 Mike?
Probably just D&D dragons in general. Wide, varied bunch.
Yeah.
I'm going to say Albie, the racist dragon from Flight of the Conchords. You guys ever watch that? It's really good. And Tanya, favorite dragon?
it's got to be Godzilla.
Oh, she's bringing it back.
yeah.
No, that's really good. Godzilla coming out this June. It's not a paid advertisement. All right. Anybody else got anything to say? I think if any... and we were also drinking... What kind of whiskey were we drinking?
Four Roses.
Oh, Four Roses. Really good. It was really good whiskey. And it was really good. So Game of Thrones has already started. It's 13 minutes in. We don't even know what's going on right now.
Watch it not feature any dragons.
Watch her not be in it. By the way, I do think that was a bit of a cop out that they with a lot of characters when they're like, we're gonna leave Winterfell and we're gonna head down to King's Landing, and a lot of them just like, I'm not going with you. Like, you fought this whole time, and now it's like, bye, see ya, Jon Snow, I'm not going to help you anymore, because they didn't want to kill him off.
But not too many spoilers for those who have not seen.
Well, that was 2 episodes ago.
Yeah, but I haven't seen this season at all.
Yeah, for people that
I'm saying that there's certain people, you don't know who it is.
Probably that redhead.
I haven't seen the series at all, and it hasn't progressed your guys' like opinions about dragons whatsoever. So I don't feel like I need to watch it.
And that's another question we need to talk about. That needs to be a whole episode. At what point do you? When is it no longer, or you have to watch about a spoiler? Like if you're 3 months in and you're like, "Hey man, I can't believe like Walter White and the meth," and people are like, "Oh my god, what? I can't believe you just spoiled Breaking Bad for me. I've never seen it." Like, come on.
That's kind of like asking, when does grave robbing become archaeology?
Ooh,
Actually,
that's
I
a
saw
great.
really good
we'll have to
answer
save that for another show.
Well, listen. If you're digging, you find a giant coffin, like a 30 by 30 coffin. You open up and you find a dinosaur in it. That you're gonna feel weird.
Yeah, you would totally feel weird.
But if it's just if I'm dying, and when's it not just forensics? Like if I walked out into the wilderness and died, and then 50 years later they found me.
True. So we need to determine when forensics becomes grave robbery and when grave robbery becomes archaeology.
Right.
Nice.
And then I want to talk about Curse of Oak Island.
Oh, neat. Yeah, that sounds good.
Because I watch that stupid show all the time, and I'm really sort of getting angry at it.
Well, yeah,
that's going to be an
You've been
episode
watching
soon.
them dig in the dirt for 4 seasons.
When they get to the
All
treasure,
right.
there's going to be a dragon there.
There's not going to be any treasure. There's not going to be any
There's a
treasure.
dragon.
There's
a dragon.
Spoiler alert. They're in like 5 or 6 seasons in, and they found like 2 coins in a Bobby Dazzler. They found a Bobby Dazzler. All right, we're out. So anyway, thanks a lot for listening. If you want to know how to make these Scotch eggs, be sure to reach out to us. And I should say Tanya did throw something at me telling me to wrap up.
We're fired.
But no, if you have any thoughts about dragons, reach out to us on Facebook or Instagram for Ghostumentary. I just post everything on Ghostumentary.
And on Facebook.
And watch Ghostumentary. And Facebook. Or go to our website, or just contact us any way you can. So anyway, that's it. Dragons are awesome.
Have a good night.
And anyone have anything they want to say?
Nope.
Okay, and good night.
Good night.
Good night.